Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. I'm your host, David Tare, and this is my continuing daily countdown of my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2519, and that one is King of Pain by the Police. This came out in 1983. Here's a picture of the singles jacket, including a picture of the band around the time they recorded it. And it was also released, it was a top 10 hit. It went to number three that year. And it was also released on their 1983 album called Synchronicity. And this was a multi platinum album. Went to number one in several countries, I believe. And I think I'm just going to first talk about this song, King of Pain. It's a pretty dark song. I mean, it's got a lot of really dark images in it. Keeps talking about a little black spot on the sun today, the same old thing as yesterday. When I first heard this song, I didn't know what they were singing about exactly. I mean, the sun does have spots on it. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but there's sunspots on the sun due to its magnetic field, and there's an 11-year cycle of magnetic activity. And I think around 1983 it was kind of at its peak. So I thought they were just talking about the fact that the sun had a lot of spots on it back in 1983, but I don't think that's what they were singing about. I mean, it was written by Sting. He was the chief songwriter of the group. And actually, I mean, there's obviously a lot of other dark images besides just the spots on the sun. He sings about a skeleton choking on a custard plate or something. Just a lot of weird images in this song. And I didn't know what this song was about for most of my life after I heard it. After a while, once I realized it probably wasn't about the sunspots, I figured it was probably about, maybe Sting was suffering from drug addiction and he was trying to recover from it. And he was having all these bad trips or bad hallucinations or just really bad withdrawal symptoms or something. That kind of sounds like what it's about, and maybe it partly was. I really don't know, but I just read this today. Apparently, the motivation for this song was that Sting had just had a recent separation from his wife, and I guess he was just really heartbroken about it naturally, and he was experiencing just a lot of the pain he was experiencing, and the title's King of Pain, so he's saying it's my destiny to be the king of pain. Basically, I guess he's just saying that, I got to master my pain. And I think we all do. But, we all have varying degrees of pain in our life. And we all have to deal with whatever pain comes our way. So if that's what this song's about, I understand the message completely. Fortunately, I don't have visions of skeletons choking. I guess my pain isn't as bad as Sting's was at the time he wrote this song. Anyway, that's kind of what the song's about. And now I'm just going to talk about the band The Police. Here's a picture of The Police in 1983, which is the year they recorded King of Pain. And they were a very, very big band. I'm sure probably most or all of you have heard of them. They were a big band from London, England. They were formed in 1977. They were actually, I think, one of the first new wave bands. New wave was starting to become popular in the late 70s, and I think they were one of the pioneers of new wave. And they had a lot of good songs, and I'm just going to go through their hits. I think they had a lot more hits in England than they had in the United States, but they still had quite a few hits in the USA. I'm going to go through all those. So their first hit was in 1979. That was called Roxanne. That one went to number 32. And then later that year, they had a song called Message in a Bottle, which didn't quite make the top 40, went to number 74. But I still think it's an excellent song. And I believe that one's coming up on my list. But a lot of these are, by the way. And then in 1980, that's when they first broke the top 10. This is when I think they had started having their first big commercial success. They had a song called Don't Stand So Close to Me, which went to number 10. They also had another number 10 later that year, da do 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 da 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 da. And I remember those songs when I was in college. They were good songs, especially like "Don't Stand So Close to Me," which is kind of about how this teacher has a student, a female student, who has a big crush on him, and he gets really bothered by her. He keeps telling her, "Don't stand so close to me," which is probably good advice. And then in 1981, they had a song called "Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic," which went to number three. They followed that up with "Spirits in the Material World," which went to 11. In 1982, they had a song called "Secret Journey," which missed the top 40, went to number 46. In 1983, they had their biggest hit of their career, which I'm sure you guys all know, "Every Breath You Take." That was actually number one for 8 weeks, and it was the number one song of the year. And I just remember they were playing it all over the place. It's a good song, and that one is coming up much, much higher on my list. I don't think I have to tell you. Later that year, they had "Wrapped Around Your Finger," which went to number 8, and "Synchronicity 2," which went to 16, and the one I'm featuring today, "King of Pain," which went to number 3. And then in 1986, they had another version of "Don't Stand So Close to Me" called "Don't Stand So Close to Me 86." That one went to number 46. I've heard that one. I don't think it's anywhere nearly as good as the original version. I guess they were kind of trying to do like the Beatles with two different versions of Revolution or something. And then they did the same thing in 1997. They had Roxanne 97, which was a remix featuring Puff Daddy. I'm not even familiar with Puff Daddy's music, but I'm not into rap, so not a fan of rap. Maybe that's why I've never heard Roxanne 97, but that one went to number 59. Anyway, that's all the hits for the Police. Pretty prolific band and pretty great band in my opinion. And that completes my profile on King of Pain by the Police. So thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time. Bye.